Is solicitation such a bad thing? By this question, I'm not referring to ladies of the night, and neither am I referring to lawyers who are referred to as solicitors. The question has to deal with modern sales theory about how you can generate sales for your business, for your organization, and for those of us who are wedding professionals, how we can get more brides and how we can get more grooms. Now, there is there are two ways primarily by which you can generate sales, and those are outbound sales methods and inbound sales methods. Outbound sales methods are those traditional methods that we've either done or heard about before, especially those methods that involve you actually walking up to a bride and groom or trying to chase them down. And that includes bridal fairs, or when you call up for referrals, or you do loads of networkings, things like that. Basically, outbound methods are when you stand up every day, leave your house, or pick up your phone, make the phone call, and basically try to chase people down. You try to secure business for yourself rather than waiting for business to come to you. Now, this is supposedly a very difficult way to drum up business because it involves a lot of time and it's labor intensive. Like I said, you will have to get out of the house or get out of your office and do a little bit of legwork, or you'll have to pick up the phone and see how you can drum up some business. Now, it requires good in-person skills, and it also requires good interpersonal skills. For those of you who've been listening to the podcast from the get-go, you realize that that's basically the bread and butter of what we talk about on the podcast. Basically, this requires you to have a lot of, no, not a lot, requires you to have quite a bit of social savvy. That's if you're going to use outbound methods to generate sales. Now, on the other end of the aisle, there's I would say a more popular way nowadays for generating sales, and that is inbound sales generation. Now, inbound sales generation is all about casting a net as wide as you can, broadcasting your message, sending it out to the whole world, and then basically letting people fall in love with it and then flood in and try and throw business your way. So that's the idea behind social media, public relations, online advertising. Let's see what else. I've seen some wedding professionals in Abuja get press coverage. That's in newspapers, and I've even seen, I think it was V's events. They got some coverage on channels television in the thick of the COVID period when they organized a virtual wedding. I was really curious about that and tuned in, but then it turned out that it wasn't an actual couple, but it was something that was staged just to show that it's something that is indeed viable. And I thought that that was a nice PR stunt because it got them national coverage. So those are the two ideas basically. Outbound sales generation, you leave your house, pick up the phone, chase down business. And then inbound sales generation, it's okay, stay at home, stay in the office, and see how you can get people to come to you. And remember, I said that outbound sales generation requires good interpersonal skills. It requires quite a bit of social savvy. Now, is there a relationship between the two? Do both of them meet at any point? A lot of people that you speak to about this subject will put these ideas in opposition to each other. So they want you to either do outbound sales generation or do inbound sales generation. But in my own opinion, I like to be agnostic on a number of things. In my own opinion, I think what you need is both. You have to do outbound, and you also should be doing inbound. And then, given the particulars of your personality or your niche or your environment, that would determine which flow of business is going to turn out to be a much more profitable one for you. But either way, I think it's something that you have to do. You have to do both. So let's look at our brothers and sisters in other industries. So construction workers, real estate people who handle large construction projects. They don't just sit down in the office and wait for inbound leads. So they do their inbound thing. So they have Instagram, they do PR, they make sure they're on social media, that they are written about in this day business page and business what's it called? This is Business Day newspaper and all that. But then they also do their outbound as well. They go to sites, they do a bit of canvassing, and they look for people to talk to. They don't just sit in the office, and that's something that we have to do as well. And it doesn't matter how large or how small the organization is, you'll find out that traditionally people have a mix of both. So you even have the likes of, let's say, Coca-Cola doing inbound. There's the social media, there's the public relations, there's the advertising that they do, the World Cup and all of that. But still, they also have boots on the ground. They have distributors here and there who are going out and looking for more avenues to sell their wares, basically. And that is Coca-Cola. You would assume that Coca-Cola has all the money in the world and they have all the market share, and so they don't have to do either outbound or inbound because business will just come to them. But that's not the case. So if Coca-Cola is still hitting the streets and doing both, so they have boots on the ground because they have distributors all over the place, and they're also doing inbound, then I think you owe it to yourself to do both. Cast a wide net as possible as you can in the early days, doing both of them. And if you're going to have to kill any particular means for generating sales, let that be determined by your, let's say, your analytics, when the figures get back. So if you find out that outbound, that's bridal fairs, referrals, networking, and those sorts of things are bringing in 80% of your business, then maybe it might make sense to just get rid of inbound altogether and focus entirely on outbound. But basically start off doing both. Now, another reason why I think you should do both is because remember, I said that outbound requires some personal and some social savvy. And so because of that, you get to pick up a lot of skills that help you when you're closing deals that come in through inbound. Now, people who have been spoiled, should I put it that way? People who've been spoiled from the beginning of having their inbound work don't have the necessary skills for moving people along the funnel when people get in touch. So you find that people who have relied on their website or the Instagram from the very beginning to drum up business on, and who have turned out to be very successful at doing that, are not always the most personable people to deal with when brides and grooms get in touch with them. And I'm sure that you, Mr. and Mrs. Wedding Vendor, have also experienced this yourself when you were either getting married and had to reach out for other vendors, or maybe you needed to do stuff like like let's say in my own case, my wife reaching out to other vendors because she has to buy stuff for our kids, and the the level of attention or lack of attention that we receive sometimes when we go about this is quite atrocious. So you send DMs out to people who don't respond on time, and people who don't respond to phone calls or reply to messages and things like that. And these are situations where you, the customer, is ready and are chasing them to give them money. And these things happen because these people who have had to rely on inbound sales generation methods haven't received the quality of training that they would have developed on their own if they had tried outbound methods. Because you can't chase down a bride or a groom at a bridal fair and be rude or dismissive or not attentive. So these are some of the tips and tricks, some of the discipline that you pick up when you actually have to do outbound, when you have to chase people up, when you have to show up at networking fairs, bridal fairs, when you have to chase down referrals and things like that. So you'll find that the more outbound you do, it actually makes you more effective at inbound. So if you're really good at doing bridal fairs, then handling inbound leads from your Instagram DM is going to be is going to be is going to be easy. I mean, by orders of magnitude, it's going to be relatively easy. And so that's something that I'm beginning to experience right now. In the beginning, I would only do outbound and I didn't care much for inbound. But because of that, I've been able to pick up some good habits that make inbound methods very, very easy for me. So some people find WhatsApp messaging with clients really taxing because some clients are WhatsApp people. You can't get them to pick up the phone, and some clients are email people. But when you're an outbound person and you've developed a sales process and you've developed good outbound etiquette, handling some of these things are just a whole lot easier. So right now, I handle emails like they're a breeze. I handle WhatsApp conversations like they're a breeze. I don't get rattled. Objections don't throw me off. That's because when you're having to deal with objections in person, when you're doing outbound, in the beginning anyway, it can be quite harsh. Like I can remember the first time in Lagos when someone looked me straight in the eyes, and the lady just told me, "Oh, you want build house, Abi?" I mean, that really caught me off guard. I had heard people say all sorts of things like, "Oh, that's expensive," or "Let me have time to think about it," but I'd never had anyone at that point look at me directly and basically just insinuate that I'm cranking up the value I'm putting on my services just because I want to make a killing off of them in particular. Now, I've had a lot of time to deal with those sorts of objections in person, and so it's because of that that when these things come across when we're doing inbound, that it's not a problem. So because I've dealt with it in person, if I give a price quote and in the WhatsApp the person just does uses let's see, does laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, I know how to proceed because I've had to handle a tougher situation in person where I came across a price objection. Now, for someone who's lived on inbound all their lives, you get that kind of interaction with the client, laughing emoji all through, and they're not quite sure where to proceed. But the thing is, once you've had some experience with outbound, especially since when you're doing outbound, you're typically you're also running into co-hustlers on your left and on your right who are running into the same challenges as you are, and so you're getting to learn things not just from your experience but from their own experience as well, versus inbound, which can be a very insular experience. So you're at home or in your office and it's just you and Instagram and WhatsApp and email, and you don't necessarily have the experience of not just live feedback to improve your sales process, but also having people with you on the left and on the right who are basically involved in the same hustle. Because when you're at bridal fairs, you have your people to the left and to the right, and you get to learn from them. You get to see what this person is doing, how this person handles this objection, how this person tries to sell value, and so anyway, you get to learn a lot. So is there which is better? Neither. Do both outbound sales and also do inbound sales as well. What else? There's an interrelationship between the two, because the better you get at outbound, the better you're going to get at inbound, especially since you can't be good at outbound. That's the traditional methods of chasing down brides and grooms if you're not a socially savvy person. So let's see. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based photographer Tavishima Ayede. As usual, you can hit me up on email, ayede.taver@gmail.com, and I'm also on Twitter at AYEDETAVER. No space, no underscore, no nothing. So thank you very much, guys, for listening. I'll catch you at the next episode.